Hey guys, Thomas the Solo Genie here, aka Mustached. I'm here to review the movie Migration. If you end up enjoying this full movie review, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, make sure to check out those links in the description. One will head you over to my petition to help out smaller YouTubers. Second and third to my Patreon and PayPal, where you can help support me and my channel directly. And fourth to my Discord server you can join, collab, and do all that cool stuff in it. And Shelling will be reminded at the end of the review. With all that out of the way, let's get into the movie Migration. Now, I've seen the trailer for this movie, I think, once. And then I went to go see the movie. Only when the opening was, allotted, I did not know that this was from the people that brought us Minions and the such, as the Minions help open us up. And my expectations immediately plummeted downward, as, even the Mario movie, which, again, I will say what I said in that review, looks pretty, but boy, is that story just flat. Yeah, my expectations for this movie went down as soon as I found out that Illumination was behind this. Again, my criticisms of this company and its writing has been pretty consistent throughout, that being that its visuals have been, moderate, but its writing has been generally flat and boring. And this is not that far from an exception to that rule. It sort of feels like it hits pretty much where I would expect a movie like this to hit. So, let's talk about it in order and be as objective as possible. Now, to give this movie its credit, its positive, is that they do have a character that does have a clear character arc, that being the father of the group. So, we do follow a family of four, a husband and a wife, Duck, and the two siblings, a older son and younger daughter. The dad is named Mac, the son is named Dax, the wife is Pam, and I don't know if I wrote the daughter's name. No, Quinn. Or, like, Harley Quinn, kind of, but anyway. So that's the family. So we learn that, through the opening, that we start with some narration, and the son is sort of preluding the story about an adventure, in which the parents cut in, the father clearly taking a stance, saying that going out and exploring the world is super dangerous, and the mom trying to alleviate the fears that the father is clearly trying to instill to them, creating a phobia for them to head out. That is how phobias like this can spread. Perhaps people need to learn about that for other phobias like transphobia, but hey, that's a different video. Anyway, getting back on track, so the father is strictly convinced that they need only but stay here. So they see a flock of other birds that are migrating here for a temporary stay, and young love finds a way as the son is introduced to this other young female duck, and they seem to hit it off pretty nicely. But it does seem like they're going to migrate further to the south, or wherever they are, to Jamaica. I don't remember their starting location, but so I assumed it was south, but whatever. Because I think that's the direction birds usually migrate in, unless my knowledge of birds is severely lacking, which it could totally be the case, whatever. Point being is that the dad is still totally convinced that these birds can go on their way, and it is only until they meet, I think it's his brother? I thought it was his dad at first, but I guess it's his brother, I guess. that seems to be slightly even older than he is, of the eldest among the pact. And he seems to be also content with staying. And he talks about how he's alone and destitute, and that alone would be enough. This realization hits him in a way that gets him to go, okay, we're actually going to go through with this. We're actually going to go with the migration idea. So, now that that's been allotted, they begin their ascent. And as they're exploring the sky, they're finally setting free, and ahead they begin to see a storm, in which they find a place as they see other ducks migrating backwards because they're trying to avoid the storm or whatever. But anyway, point being is that they end up restituting this or this one building area where there are these two different types of birds. I think I wrote it in my notes what they were, but I don't think it's too important. Point being is that they tried to be hospitable at the beginning, but in the next day they attempt to eat the family. So they're like, we gotta get out of here. So it was a bit nonsensical, this whole weird luring thing, and whether or not they were trying to gain or lower suspicion throughout their endeavors to trap this family, I guess. It was a bit wonky, I suppose. I think that's supposed to be the point, is that you're not really supposed to tell which one they're going for quite yet, if they're not going to eat them or if they're going to eat them. So there's a bit of back and forth until the reveal that they choose to do so. So they continue to fly away and finally reach a city. Now, based on, I guess, location, I guess they're in some heavier city like New York or some equivalent of New York. Point being is that they run into a group of pigeons, also different types of birds. They strike a deal when they come across this loaf of bread, or this sandwich rather, and the dad was causing conflict because he called them these straight something or other. So sort of I guess this would be the equivalent of human racism, I guess, but for birds. So they're trying to obviously do something along those lines, I suppose. Point being is that the mom takes the reins and sort of calms down the situation, creating a compromised deal about how they're going to split the sandwich. The family getting the lesser and the pigeons getting the greater number. But as I sort of was already predicting at this point, is that more further middling shenanigans would sort of keep preventing them from getting to their course. Sort of like the typical Illumination sort of strategy in the middle of most of their movies. I want to say 95% of their catalog is this strategy to their movies, dialogue or setup, I suppose. So it's pretty predictable in that way, from Illumination anyway. Point being is that this is right up their alley, I suppose. They meet with a red type of bird. Now, I have no clue what type of bird this is. It's a longer bird, though. But he's, in captivity. So the son initially stands up and he's like, okay, I will be the one to save you, we're gonna get you out. But the dad then insists that this job is far too dangerous, so he will go instead. So we proceed to follow the father, who is joined later on by the mother, in this endeavor to essentially grab the key. So they meet their new main antagonist for the rest of the movie, essentially. This chef, whose design is, like, I thought was going to be intimidating at first, and then, like, he, like, reveals, I guess it's like a semi-thin intimidation. I don't know how to put it. He doesn't have any dialogue, so it's hard to gauge, like, what his serious level is meant to be. At any rate, they make their way into the kitchen where the key was hung. So they manage to just get the key, but get captured or get spotted at the very most at this point in the movie, in which they need to finagle their way out, which they manage to get into the next room where music begins to play. This is where they use the sort of music as an indication that they need to follow sort of in the footsteps of humans, I guess, or learn or adapt in this way, because there's like barely any room to fly to get out of the situation. So that's exactly what they do. The two proceed to learn to tango in this instance. So, ridiculous situation after ridiculous situation is, again, sort of the name of the game of, again, every Illumination story, or, again, with probably the exception of Mario, but even that felt like it was kind of teetering on that as well, because of how flat that movie is as well, so it's kind of guilty of it too, in a way. Nonetheless, they managed to do that to get out. And thus free the red bird. So they continue to proceed flying, in which, when they're flying, the youngest sibling, Quinn, feels that she needs a private restroom break. So they go ahead and land, in which, during the sequence, the dad finds a, hidden doorway with a goose or a duck symbol on it, I guess. So he decides that he's going to want to investigate now, because he's already in this investigation spirit, as well as we need our new random sort of third act, thing to occur that is so far unrelated to the previous things that just happened, but still causing enough problems to get us to the finish line of the movie. So that's exactly what happens. So they make their way through. They get introduced to different types of ducks, which I think these are supposed to be like geese, I suppose. And these particular geese are treated very well, and it's very clear that the setup is that that they get treated rather well, and then we see the other side, and then it's like a sell-off profit thing to feed up the chickens so that you get your big fat chicken or bird, and to say the equivalent. So and it just turns out that their transaction period between the people who are feeding these geese and the other side is the same chef that happens to be the one that they have been aggravating earlier in the movie. So connecting the dots rather loosely to keep him in the movie and keep him as the antagonist. In which the son once again steps up when he thinks he can save the day. Or at least get the birds when they're falling for the trick, because they open up the coop, they make the deal, and they're already beginning to flock into the vehicle. So he makes his way forward. The dad sees this and freaks out, understandably so. And furthermore, the son actually gets captured in the process of trying to get there. So the dad enters in dad rage and singularly attacks the chef guy, tells the others to escape while trampling him, thus leading to their escape, in tow with all of the other birds that they have collected in their escape. But we're not quite done with this guy yet. But for the time being, they get a little bit of a breather, where the son, for reasons of, like, wanting to prove himself, I suppose, freaks out on his dad, yells at his dad that, like, you know, I had it, or some, you know, I'm, like, paraphrasing, essentially, but I felt like this could have been a particularly solid moment to provide the son a bit of his own character arc instead of being, well, just another flat character, but no, unfortunately, that is not where they're going with this at all. Too little too late, I suppose. After all the other characters are flat, so hoping that one would shed from their flatness to being a more substantial character was giving this movie too much credit, I suppose. Within that context, we see that they're trying to rest up after escaping to a certain point, in which, not too long later, they get caught again. This time, the two siblings are the only two not to get captured by the chef, who brings all the others into this helicopter. And we see that due to the son getting captured, he also got injured. He can no longer fly as is in this moment. This is the typical, third act low point of the movie, essentially. In which we see that the two parents have been separated by a separate cage from the others who are in this other cage at the back of this helicopter. And they get their front row seats, but they learn, as they're trying to figure out how they can escape, that if they stand up, they can move the cage a lot more easily, rather than shoving the cage while trying to remain seated. So, they once again make their way almost to the doorway, or to the escape button, I suppose. But he catches on, and I forget what exactly happens, but something happens in accordance to allow the others to essentially get out. They all attack him. They open the lower hatch, in which they are freed. And so they're starting to lower. The mom and dad are in the cage still, and there's like one of those like cooking forks that is keeping the cage locked. So we cut back to, or we saw earlier in the moment where the son had picked up a feather that the sister was crying on, and he gets an idea, and I'm not sure how this works, but whatever, it just does, where he has now attached the red wings from the red bird that, like, I guess were shedded off somehow. He attaches them to himself, and then he's just able to fly again with that. I don't get how any of that works, but it just does. So they're able to pull off the utensil in order to free them. They get freed, and rejoin the Red Bird to continue their journey to Jamaica, in which, surprise, surprise, they actually make it all the way there. And young lad meets with a girl who he had a crush on. They have a little dance at the end. The two parents have a little dance at the end. Everyone's having a little party at the end. But just at the tail end of the movie, the father bumps into a group of penguins, which he's already promised to help them out, migrate back to, I forget which pole it was. I forget it was north or south, but point being is that they were trying to obviously sequel bait to another movie here, which isn't so surprising for Illumination nor this movie, I suppose, but it is what it is, and that's basically the plot slash narrative of Migration. This isn't, again, too far removed from anything I would expect to see from Illumination. It bothers me that I keep hoping, or I keep holding on to this hope, because I don't know what DreamWorks is doing with Kung Fu Panda 4, but we'll see, I guess. I don't know what that's going to equate to. Because, that movie trailer got me. It was like, okay, so they're not doing the Furious 5 thing anymore. They dropped that whole thing, it seems. Again, based on what I've seen from the trailer, it seems like they dropped that completely. So I don't know what they're doing with that, but point being is that here with Illumination, I keep hoping that they somehow eventually learn, instead of doing this insane thing that also just happens to make them a buttload of money every time. It's like, you have the capacity with your level of animation to step up to, I don't know, Disney. Like seriously, they teamed up with Nintendo and they proved that they could do it. They proved that they could totally do it if they worked hard enough. And sure, that one was a collaboration, so maybe the creative, that level of animation, maybe not to that extent, but the animation here isn't necessarily even bad. It's good. It's of quality. I'm not fretting against any of that. It's the writing. It always has been the writing for me for these Illumination movies. And they all have the capacity to be something so much more. And it pains me that they never seem to want to push the envelope. They never want to seem to be like, yo, Disney, watch out, we're here too, pay attention. And people that are watching our movies, we're actually coming with really good content now that's also well written. I want to see that movie from Illumination. And I do think a part of that is just whatever their next Illumination project is, what they need to do is drop the whole Minion thing in the beginning, to be like how they did for Mario. I think they didn't do any of the Illumination Minion stuff for that movie. Start it off like that. Keep it we're gonna keep this movie it's almost its own independent thing, and have it be extremely well written. I'm talking about all the characters have different dynamics, positionings, and you have a solid story. And I'm telling you, Illumination, you could beat Disney with one movie right now. They could do it. They could totally do it. Disney is struggling, even with their movie of Wish. I don't understand a lot of people's criticisms of that movie. There was the whole AI controversy, which there's no proof of it, but, that's still floating. That was still floating there as a possibility. So it's and their other movies are just just absolutely struggling. Everything within Disney is just crumbling. It's if there was ever a time for Illumination to step up their game, it is now. It is now or never for Illumination to come up with getting a good writer in there and being like, yeah, we're actually gonna crank out something that has a level of quality in its writing. I think that would stand the test of time. That would be the paradigm shift I think we need to see from something like Illumination, which again I think is one of Disney's only competitors in terms of animation, I suppose. Because like, if I remember this correctly, like DreamWorks is like already under Disney in a way, I think, and then Illumination is not, I think, though I could be mistaken. I don't know, but anyway, in terms of a score, it's relatively flat. It's a 5 out of 10, and I think that's being awfully generous. Like, I don't think there's anything like groundbreaking in this movie, like plot holes or anything of that nature. But on the other hand, this isn't anything out of pocket. It's just a bunch of misdirection. It's just a bunch of sort of random thing happening after thing. And what I would like to see again from Illumination is a well-constructed story where everything, like the threads are connecting, you know, from the, you know, if you have like two converging stories, let's say, but the two converging stories, you can actually see how they're going to diverge, how they're going to connect, you know, like actually showing like there's a level of writing quality that is actually something to be praising here. And again, like I said, there is at least something going on with the father character. There's a character arc, so there is something to like give credit for. But that does, you know, and the other characters are fine, despite being flat, is what I'll say. And that's my review of Migration, and sort of like a little message to Illumination, I guess. Not that they would ever listen to one guy, but whatever. So yeah, that's my review of Migration. If you ended up enjoying it, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, make sure to check out those links in the description 100 to my petition to help out smaller YouTubers, so get a third to my Patreon and PayPal, where you can help support me and my channel directly, and fourth to my Discord server, where you can join, collab, and chill, and all that cool stuff. And until next time, everybody, bye-bye!